Captain Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck of Research Station Alpha, watching the twin suns of Kepler 442b paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. 3 years had passed since humanity first stepped beyond their home solar system, and Jake still felt amazed every time he watched an alien sunset. The research station floated in orbit around the planet, home to 43 scientists and crew members. Below them, the world spun slowly, covered in purple forests and silver oceans. It was beautiful, peaceful, and completely uninhabited by intelligent life, or so they thought. "Captain Morrison, we have something on the long-range sensors." The voice belonged to Communications Officer Lisa Park, and she sounded worried. Jake turned away from the window and walked to the bridge. The crew members at their stations looked tense. On the main screen, 3 bright dots moved steadily toward their position. "How big are they?" Jake asked. "Large, sir. Bigger than anything we've ever built. Each one is about 2 kilometers long." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her control panel. "They're not responding to our communication attempts." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and he wasn't sure if he liked it. "Send out a peaceful greeting message on all frequencies," he ordered. "Tell them we come in peace and want to establish friendly contact." The crew worked in silence for several minutes. The alien ships continued their approach, now close enough for the sensors to pick up more details. They were sleek and dark, with no visible engines or weapons ports. They moved through space like hunting sharks through water. "Still no response, Captain," Lisa reported. "Wait, I'm getting something." The main screen flickered, then filled with static. Slowly, an image formed. The creature that appeared was unlike anything from Earth's imagination. It stood tall on 4 legs, with smooth gray skin and large black eyes. Multiple arms ended in delicate fingers, and its mouth moved in ways that hurt to watch. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human research vessel Alpha. We come seeking peaceful contact with your people." The alien spoke in a series of clicks and whistles. The computer tried to translate, but only produced meaningless symbols on the screen. The alien's expression seemed to grow more hostile with each passing second. "I think we're making it angry," whispered Dr. Sam Rodriguez, the station's lead scientist. The alien suddenly raised one of its arms. Jake saw something that looked like a weapon, though he couldn't be sure. The communication screen went dark. "They're powering up some kind of energy system," Lisa announced, her voice tight with fear. "All 3 ships are targeting us." Jake's mind raced. They had no weapons, no shields, and no way to escape 3 ships that big. "Launch the emergency beacon. Send everything we've recorded back to Earth. They need to know what's out here." The beacon shot away from the station just as the first alien ship fired. A beam of green light struck the station's hull, and the entire structure shook. Emergency alarms screamed through the corridors. "Hull breach in Section 7, someone shouted. "We're losing atmosphere." Jake grabbed the intercom. "All hands, abandon ship. This is not a drill. Get to the escape pods now." Another blast hit the station, this one closer to the bridge. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the red glow of emergency power. Through the observation windows, Jake could see the alien ships moving closer, like predators circling wounded prey. "Pod Bay 2 is damaged," Lisa reported. "We've lost half our escape pods." "Then we use what we have." Jake helped her up from her fallen chair. "Everyone to the remaining pods. Move fast." The crew ran through shaking corridors as the station came apart around them. Jake made sure everyone else got to safety before climbing into the last pod with Dr. Rodriguez and Lisa. Through the small window, he watched their research station explode in a ball of fire and metal fragments. The escape pod's small engine carried them toward the planet's surface while the alien ships hung in space above like dark clouds. Jake activated the pod's communication system and began recording a message. "This is Captain Jake Morrison. First contact with alien intelligence has failed. They attacked without warning and destroyed our station. We are the only survivors. If anyone receives this message, do not come to this system. The aliens are hostile and extremely dangerous." Dr. Rodriguez looked at the sensor readings from his small console. "Jake, there's something else. The alien ships are launching smaller vessels. Dozens of them, heading for the planet." Jake peered through the window and saw them, small dark shapes dropping through the atmosphere like falling stars. They were coming fast, and they were coming for the humans on the surface. The pod shook as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Below them, the purple forest stretched for thousands of kilometers. Somewhere down there were the other human settlements, New Haven with its 300 colonists, and Terra Nova with nearly 500 more. None of them knew what was coming. "Can we warn them?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "The alien attack damaged our communication array. We can send short-range signals, but nothing that will reach the other colonies." The pod crashed through the treetops and hit the ground hard. Jake tasted blood in his mouth as he unbuckled his restraints. Through the cracked window, he could see the purple forest around them. It looked peaceful, but he knew that wouldn't last long. "We need to find the nearest settlement," he said. "The people down there need to know what's coming." Dr. Rodriguez gathered the few supplies they had. "What do you think those small ships were carrying?" Jake thought about the hostile alien on the communication screen, about the way the ships had moved like predators, about how quickly they had attacked. Nothing good. Whatever they sent down here, it's not going to be friendly. They left the broken pod and began walking through the alien forest. Above them, the twin suns were setting, and Jake could see new lights in the sky, the alien ships, still waiting in orbit. Whatever they had sent to the surface was just the beginning dot as they walked. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Something was moving through the trees, keeping pace with them but staying hidden. Something that had been designed to hunt. Dr. Lisa Carter pressed her back against the cold metal wall of the research lab and tried to control her breathing. Outside, she could hear them moving through the corridors of the New Haven research facility. The sounds they made were like nothing she had ever heard before, a mixture of clicking claws on metal floors and low, rumbling growls that seemed to come from deep in their chests. 3 days had passed since the alien attack on Research Station. Alpha, Captain Morrison's warning message had reached New Haven just hours before the first hunting pack arrived. Lisa and her team had been studying plant samples when the emergency alarm sounded. Now she was the only one left alive. Through the small window in the lab door, she caught her first clear look at one of the creatures. It stood 8 feet tall on powerful legs that ended in razor-sharp claws. Its body was covered in dark chitinous, armor that looked both natural and somehow artificial. The head was elongated, with small black eyes that seemed to take in everything around it. When it opened its mouth, she saw rows of teeth designed for tearing flesh. The creature moved with deadly grace, checking each room methodically. It was hunting, but not like a wild animal. There was intelligence behind those dark eyes, a cold calculation that made Lisa's blood freeze. Her communicator buzzed softly. Lisa nearly jumped out of her skin before realizing it was set to silent mode. The message was from General Alex Rivera, the military commander of all human colonies in this system. "All survivors, this is General Rivera. We have confirmed reports of hostile alien creatures on all 3 worlds. These are not the same aliens who destroyed Station Alpha. These appear to be some kind of biological weapons sent to hunt us. Take shelter and avoid contact. Military support is coming." Lisa wanted to laugh, but she was afraid the sound would give her away. Military support? The closest human warship was 6 months away, and these creatures had already overrun 3. Research stations and 2 mining settlements. She heard footsteps in the corridor outside. Heavy, deliberate steps that stopped right outside her door. Lisa held her breath as she watched the door handle slowly turn. The creature entered the lab. With fluid movements, its head turning left and right as it scanned the room. Lisa crouched behind a lab bench, praying that the equipment would hide her from view. The creature's claws clicked on the floor as it moved deeper into the room. Then it stopped. Its head turned toward her hiding spot, and she knew it had found her. But instead of attacking immediately, the creature did something unexpected. It tilted its head to one side, like a dog listening to a distant sound. Its mouth opened slightly, and it made a soft sound that was almost like a whimper. Lisa watched in amazement as the creature's aggressive posture seemed to change. Its claws retracted slightly, and its breathing became less harsh. For a moment, it looked almost confused, as if fighting against something inside its own mind. The moment passed quickly. The creature shook its head violently and let out a roar that shook the lab equipment. Its eyes locked onto Lisa's hiding place, and she knew her time was up. But before it could move, an explosion rocked the building. The creature stumbled, and Lisa heard human voices shouting orders outside. Marine Lieutenant Colonel Kate Thompson and her team had arrived. Go, go, go. Sweep and clear, watch for civilians. The creature in the lab roared again and charged toward the door, apparently more interested in fighting the armed humans than hunting Lisa. She heard gunfire and the sounds of battle as the Marines engaged the alien hunters throughout the building. 20 minutes later, Kate Thompson found Lisa hiding in the lab. The Marine officer was tall and muscular, with short brown hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. Dr. Carter? I'm Colonel Thompson. Are you injured? Lisa shook her head, still trembling from the encounter. It had me cornered. But then, something strange happened. For a moment, it seemed like it didn't want to attack me. Kate frowned. These things are killing machines. They've wiped out entire settlements. I know what I saw, Lisa insisted. There was something else going on, like it was fighting against its own instincts. The Marine helped Lisa to her feet and led her outside. The research facility was badly damaged, with scorch marks on the walls and several bodies covered by emergency blankets. Lisa tried not to look too closely at what remained of her colleagues. We managed to bring down 2 of them, Kate said, pointing to the alien corpses being examined by military scientists. But 3 more escaped into the forest. Dr. Rodriguez wants to study the bodies. Dr. Sam Rodriguez looked up from his examination of one creature. He was a marine biologist who had been studying Earth's most dangerous predators before the colony mission. Now he was trying to understand something far more deadly. These aren't natural creatures, he told Lisa and Kate. Look at this. He pointed to a small device embedded in the creature's skull. Some kind of implant. And these modifications to the bone structure, the enhanced muscle density, this is genetic engineering. Kate crossed her arms. So someone built these things to hunt us. That's what it looks like. But here's the interesting part. Sam showed them a series of chemical readings on his portable scanner. Their brain chemistry is all wrong for a pure predator. The stress hormones are through the roof, and there are traces of artificial compounds I don't recognize. Lisa thought about what she had witnessed in the lab. What if they're being controlled somehow? What if they don't want to be doing this? Sam looked up sharply. What makes you say that? Lisa described the creature's behavior in the lab, how it had seemed to hesitate and show signs of distress. Sam listened carefully, then turned back to his examination of the alien corpse. If you're right, he said slowly, then these creatures might not be our real enemy. They might be victims too. Kate shook her head. Victims or not, they're still trying to kill us. My job is to protect human lives. I understand that, Sam replied. But if we can figure out how they're being controlled, Maybe we can find a way to stop them without having to kill them all. As if summoned by his words, a new sound echoed through the forest around them. More hunting calls, but different this time. Sadder somehow, like creatures calling for something they had lost. Lisa looked at the alien corpse and wondered if somewhere inside that modified brain, the original creature was still trapped, forced to hunt against its will. If Sam was right, then humanity faced an enemy that might be as much a prisoner as they were. The question was, could they find a way to break the chains before the hunters finished their deadly work? Dr. Sam Rodriguez stared at the wounded creature in the makeshift holding cell. 2 weeks had passed since Kate Thompson's Marines had captured it during a raid on a Vorthok hunting pack. The creature lay on its side, breathing slowly through what appeared to be pain. Its right arm had been badly damaged by Marine gunfire, but it was healing faster than any Earth animal could. Sam had convinced Kate to let him study the creature, instead of killing it immediately. The military wanted answers about their enemy, and Sam believed this Vorthok held the key to understanding everything. Any progress? Kate asked as she entered the temporary search lab they had set up in New Haven's emergency bunker. Sam looked up from his notes. I've been monitoring its brain activity for 3 days now. The patterns are fascinating and disturbing at the same time. He showed Kate the readouts on his computer screen. See these spikes in neural activity? They happen every 6 hours, like clockwork. Each time, the creature becomes more aggressive and agitated. But in between, during the quiet periods, its behavior is completely different. Different how? Watch this. Sam approached the cell carefully. The Vorthok was in one of its calm periods, lying quietly with its eyes half closed. When it saw Sam, it didn't snarl or bare its teeth. Instead, it made a soft sound that was almost like a question. Sam had been working on a simple communication system using hand gestures and basic sounds. He held up one finger, then pointed to himself. The creature watched carefully, then held up one of its own clawed fingers and pointed to Sam. It was mimicking him, trying to understand. Kate watched in amazement. It's learning. More than that. During these calm periods, it shows curiosity, problem-solving ability, and what I can only describe as emotional responses. But every 6 hours, something changes in its brain chemistry, and it becomes a killing machine again. As if on cue, the creature suddenly tensed. Its eyes turned black, and it let out a roar that shook the walls of the cell. It threw itself against the reinforced barriers, claws scraping against metal as it tried to reach the humans. There it goes again, Sam said, stepping back to a safe distance. This will last about 20 minutes, then it will calm down. Kate frowned. So something is controlling these things on a schedule. That's what I think. And I believe Maria Santos has found the source. Maria Santos was the colony's best communications expert. She had been working around the clock to decode the alien signals that periodically swept through the system. Her workspace was filled with monitoring equipment and displays showing complex wave patterns. Show them what you found, Sam said as he and Kate entered Maria's lab. Maria pointed to a large display screen. Every 6 hours, we detect a powerful transmission from the alien ships in orbit. The signal is directed at the planet's surface, and it uses a frequency that can penetrate deep into brain tissue. She played a recording of the signal. It sounded like static mixed with a low humming tone that made Kate feel uncomfortable just listening to it. The signal contains multiple layers, Maria continued. There's a carrier wave that seems designed to trigger aggression, and underneath it, there are complex command patterns. I think this is how they're controlling the Vorthok. Ben Parker, the colony's computer specialist, looked up from his workstation. I've been analyzing the command patterns Maria recorded. They're not random. There's a definite structure, like a programming language designed for biological systems. Ben was young and energetic, with the kind of mind that could see patterns where others saw only chaos. He had been working on a way to disrupt the alien control signals for the past week. "The good news is that I think I can jam the signal," Ben said. "The bad news is that we don't know what will happen to the Vorthik when we do." Sam nodded toward the holding cell. "We're about to find out. The next control signal is due in 10 minutes. I want to try blocking it and see how our prisoner reacts." Kate was skeptical. What if it becomes even more dangerous without the control signal? Or what if it becomes free? Sam replied. "There's only one way to know for sure." They gathered around Ben's jamming device as the 10-minute countdown reached 0. Through the observation window, they could see the Vorthik lying calmly in its cell. Then Ben activated the jamming field just as the control signal arrived from orbit. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Vorthik suddenly sat up, shaking its head violently as if trying to clear away fog. Its eyes, which had been dull and unfocused, became bright and alert. It looked around the cell with what appeared to be confusion, then turned toward the observation window where the humans were watching. For the first time since its capture, the creature looked truly aware of its surroundings. It approached the window slowly, not with the aggressive stalking movements they had seen before, but with obvious curiosity. When it reached the barrier, it placed one clawed hand against the transparent material and made a sound that was unmistakably a greeting. Sam stepped forward and placed his hand against the window, matching the creature's gesture. The Vorthik's mouth opened in what might have been surprise or pleasure. It began making a series of clicking and whistling sounds that were clearly attempts at communication. "My God," Kate whispered, "it's trying to talk to us." Over the next hour, the Vorthik's behavior continued to change. It examined every part of its cell with intelligent curiosity rather than aggressive frustration. When Sam brought it food, it ate carefully and even seemed to nod in thanks. Most remarkably, when the next control signal was due to arrive, the creature cowered in the corner of its cell, clearly dreading what was about to happen. Ben kept the jamming field active and the control signal had no effect. The Vorthik remained calm and aware. It looked at the humans with what could only be described as gratitude. "This changes everything," Sam said. "These creatures aren't our enemies. They're prisoners just like we are. The real enemy is whoever is controlling them." Maria checked her monitoring equipment. "The aliens in orbit are increasing their signal strength. They know something is wrong." Kate activated her communicator. "All units, this is Colonel Thompson. We have a breakthrough in understanding our enemy. The hunting creatures are being controlled against their will. Repeat, the Vorthik are not acting of their own free choice." As if in response to her words, more Vorthik hunting calls echoed through the forest around New Haven, but this time, the sounds carried a different tone. Instead of aggressive hunting cries, they sounded like calls for help. Sam looked at the creature in the cell, which was now watching the humans with obvious intelligence and hope in its eyes. "We need to find a way to free all of them. If we can break the control over the entire Vorthik force, we might have a chance to survive this." Ben was already working on modifications to his jamming device. "Give me 3 days, and I can build something powerful enough to disrupt their control signals across the entire colony. But we'll need to get closer to the source." Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the command deck of the hastily converted mining ship Defender, watching the largest alien fleet he had ever seen descend toward New Haven. 3 months had passed since his escape from Research Station Alpha, and he had spent that time organizing the scattered human survivors into something resembling a fighting force. "How many ships?" he asked his communications officer. 47 confirmed, Admiral, Lisa Park replied. She had been rescued from a crashed escape pod 2 weeks earlier and immediately volunteered to serve on Morrison's command staff. "They're bringing everything they have. This is their final push to wipe us out." Jake nodded grimly. The aliens had grown tired of waiting for their Vorthak hunters to finish the job. Now they were coming to complete the extermination personally. On the surface of New Haven, Ben Parker made final adjustments to his disruption device. The machine was massive, built from salvaged parts and powered by the colony's main generator. If it worked, it would free every Vorthik on the planet from alien control. If it failed, the humans would face both the alien fleet and an army of controlled hunters. "Are you sure about this?" Colonel Kate Thompson asked, checking her weapon. For the 10th time. Her Marines were positioned around the device, ready to defend it with their lives. Ben wiped sweat from his forehead. "As sure as I can be without testing it first. The math all checks out, but we're dealing with alien technology." Here, Dr. Sam Rodriguez knelt beside the cage holding their captured Vorthik, whom he had named Hunter. Over the past weeks, Hunter had learned to communicate using a combination of gestures, drawings, and simple human words. The bond between human and Vorthik had grown stronger each day. "Hunter, do you understand what we're trying to do?" Sam asked. Hunter nodded, a gesture he had learned from watching humans. He pointed to the device, then to his own head, then made a braking motion with his hands. He understood that the humans were trying to free his people from the mind control. Through a series of drawings in the dirt, Hunter had explained that the Vorthik were once a peaceful species who lived on a world of great forests and crystal cities. The aliens had conquered them centuries ago, changing their bodies and enslaving their minds. Hunter remembered fragments of his old life, memories that came to him in dreams when the control signals were weakest. 10 minutes until the fleet reaches attack range, Maria Santos announced from her communication station. "The disruption field needs to be active before they start their assault, or the Vorthik ground forces will overwhelm our positions." Jake's voice crackled over the radio from the defender above. "All ground units, prepare for simultaneous attack from orbit and surface. Remember, once Ben activates that device, we're betting everything on the Vorthik switching sides." Dr. Lisa Carter, who had been working with Hunter to understand Vorthik biology, looked nervous. "What if freeing them just makes them more dangerous? What if they blame us for everything that's happened?" Sam shook his head. "Hunter has shown us nothing but gratitude since we freed him. His people have been prisoners for generations. They'll fight alongside us, not against us." The first alien energy beams struck the outer defenses of New Haven. The ground shook as buildings collapsed and emergency alarms wailed across the colony. In the distance, human defenders returned fire with their limited weapons, while alien landing craft began deploying ground troops. "Now or never, Ben," Kate shouted over the noise of battle. Ben's hand hovered over the activation switch. "If this doesn't work, we're all dead." "If we don't try, we're dead anyway," Sam replied. "Do it." Ben pressed the switch. The massive device hummed to life, drawing power from across the colony. Energy levels spiked as the disruption field expanded. Outward, racing across the planet at the speed of light, the effect was immediate and stunning. Every Vorthik on the planet suddenly stopped what they were doing. Those in the middle of attacking human positions froze in place. For a moment, the battlefield fell silent except for the sound of alien ships overhead. Then the Vorthik began to change. The blank, controlled expressions left their faces, replaced by confusion, then understanding, then rage. But the rage was not directed at the humans they had been hunting. Instead, they turned their attention to the alien ground forces that had just landed. Hunter stood up in his cage and let out a roar that was unlike any sound he had made while under control. It was a battle cry, a call to freedom that echoed across the colony. Other Vorthik answered from the forests and settlements, and their voices joined together in a chorus of liberation. The first freed Vorthik reached an alien landing site just as the enemy soldiers were setting up their weapons. The aliens, who had always used the Vorthik as their advance forces, were unprepared to face them as enemies. The battle was swift and brutal. The Vorthik knew every detail of alien tactics, equipment, and weaknesses because they had been forced to serve alongside them for centuries. Sam opened Hunter's cage, and the Vorthak stepped out as a free being for the first time in his adult life. Hunter placed a clawed hand on Sam's shoulder, a gesture of friendship and trust. "Thank you," Hunter said in careful English. "My people free. Now we fight together." Kate watched through binoculars as Vorthak forces overran alien positions across the landscape. "I don't believe it. They're actually winning." Above them, the alien fleet found itself facing an unexpected problem. The Vorthak weren't supposed to fight back. The aliens had built their entire strategy around using the Hunters as shock troops. Without that advantage, their ground assault collapsed. Jake Morrison seized the opportunity. "All ships, attack now while they're confused. Target their command vessels." The small human fleet, consisting of converted mining ships and research vessels, launched their assault on the alien formation. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the aliens didn't expect: Vorthak allies. Several of the freed Vorthak had been trained as pilots during their years of servitude. They commandeered alien shuttles and fighter craft, turning the enemy's own weapons against them. Hunter looked up at the sky where the battle raged and made a request that Sam could barely understand. "Hunter wants to go up there," Sam told Kate. "He says he knows how to fly their ships and can help Admiral Morrison." Kate didn't hesitate. "Get him to the spaceport. If he can fly, we need every pilot we can get." As Hunter ran toward the damaged spaceport, followed by several other freed Vorthak, Sam felt a mix of pride and amazement. 3 hours ago, these creatures had been humanity's deadliest enemies. Now they were risking their lives to save human colonies. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it finally ended, the alien fleet was either destroyed or fleeing back to deep space. The ground was littered with the wreckage of alien war machines, destroyed not by human weapons, but by their own former servants. Hunter returned from the space battle with burns on his arms and a fierce expression of satisfaction. He had personally shot down 3 alien fighters and helped disable a command ship. "Your people safe now," Hunter told Sam. "But more aliens come. We must prepare." Sam nodded. "Then we prepare together. Humans and Vorthak as allies." Hunter smiled, an expression that looked strange on his predatory features, but somehow felt perfectly natural. "Yes, together we strong, apart we die." As the sun set over New Haven, humans and Vorthak worked side by side to tend their wounded and rebuild their defenses. The Hunters had become the Hunted's greatest protectors, and a new alliance was born from the ashes of war. 6 months after the Battle of New Haven, Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Freedom Station, watching the largest fleet ever assembled by the Human Vorthak Alliance prepare for their most important mission. The space station had been built from salvaged alien technology and Vorthak bioengineering, creating something entirely new in the galaxy. "Final ship count, Admiral," reported Captain Lisa Park from her position at the communications console. 63 vessels, ready for Operation Liberation. 22 human ships, 31 captured and converted alien vessels, and 10 new hybrid ships built with Vorthak biotechnology. Jake nodded as he watched the fleet through the observation windows. The hybrid ships were beautiful and strange, their hulls covered in living armor that could heal damage and adapt to different types of attacks. Human engineering combined with Vorthak biological science had created vessels unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Hunter approached Jake, moving with the confident stride of someone who had found their purpose. The Vorthak had grown during his time working with humans, not just in size but in wisdom and leadership skills. He now served as the voice of all freed Vorthak and had earned the respect of every human in the Alliance. "My scouts returned from Krillian space," Hunter said in the clear English he had mastered over the past months. 3 manufacturing worlds confirmed. "Thousands of my people held prisoner. also detected 4 other slave species on different planets. Dr. San Rodriguez looked up from his tactical display. He had become the Alliance's chief strategist, combining his knowledge of Earth biology with what Hunter had taught him about Krillian military structure. The intelligence confirms what we suspected. The Krillians have been doing this for centuries, enslaving entire species and turning them into weapons. Engineer Rachel Davis joined the group, her hands covered in the biogel that was used to interface with Vorthek technology. She had been working around the clock to perfect the human-Vorthek hybrid systems that would give them an advantage in the coming battle. "The new ships are ready," Rachel reported. "The living armor can absorb energy weapons fire and convert it into power for our own systems. The Vorthek biotechnology is incredible. It's like the ships can think and adapt on their own." Colonel Kate Thompson, now promoted to general, studied the mission plans one final time. 3 simultaneous strikes on 3 different star systems. We free the Vorthek manufacturing centers, rescue as many prisoners as possible, and gather intelligence on the full extent of Krillian operations. Hunter's expression grew serious. Krillians will fight hard to protect slave worlds. These planets make their weapons, build their ships. Without slaves, Krillian Empire becomes weak. Jake activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Today we begin Operation Liberation. For 6 months, we've been building our strength and learning to work together. Humans and Vorthek, former enemies now united by a common cause. We go not just to free the enslaved Vorthek, but to strike a blow for freedom throughout the galaxy." The fleet departed in 3 groups, each heading for a different Krillian manufacturing world. Jake commanded the largest group, targeting the primary Vorthek breeding facility on Krillian Prime 7. Hunter insisted on leading the assault personally, saying his people deserved to see one of their own breaking their chains. The journey took 4 days through hyperspace. When they emerged near their target, Jake was amazed by what they found. The planet below was covered in massive industrial complexes where thousands of Vorthek labored under Krillian control. Orbital stations hung in space like metal spiders, their arms reaching down to harvest resources from the planet's surface. "Krillian Defense Fleet detected," Lisa announced. 40 ships moving to intercept. The battle began immediately. Krillian vessels opened fire with their energy weapons, but the hybrid ship's living armor absorbed the blasts and converted them into power. For the Alliance's return fire, human tactics combined with Vorthak biological advantages proved devastating against an enemy that had never faced such a combination. Hunter piloted one of the new hybrid fighters, using his knowledge of Krillian ship designs to target their weak points. He had insisted on learning to fly human-style spacecraft, saying that understanding both technologies made him a better warrior. The space battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the Krillian defense fleet was either destroyed or fleeing toward deep space. Jake's fleet moved into orbit around the planet and began the most important part of their mission. "Begin planetary liberation," Jake ordered. Landing craft filled with human marines and freed Vorthak warriors descended to the planet's surface. But instead of facing fierce resistance, they found something unexpected. The enslaved Vorthek on the planet had sensed the approach of their free brothers and sisters. Even under mind control, some deep part of them recognized that liberation had come. Ben Parker, now the Alliance's chief technology officer, deployed improved versions of his disruption device at key points across the planet. As the control signals were blocked, thousands of Vorthek suddenly found themselves free for the first time in their lives. The newly freed Vorthek turned on their Krillian overseers with centuries of accumulated rage. The industrial complexes that had been instruments of oppression became battlegrounds where the enslaved rose up against their masters. Human soldiers found themselves supporting a planet-wide revolution rather than fighting a traditional battle. Doctor Lisa Carter worked with Vorthik medical specialists to treat the freed prisoners. Many had been modified so extensively that they barely remembered their original forms. Others had been conditioned from birth and had never known freedom. The work of healing would take years, but it was work worth doing. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from the other strike groups," Lisa Park announced. "General Thompson's force has successfully liberated the Vorthik training facility on Krillian Minor 3. Captain Rodriguez reports complete success at the weapons manufacturing world. Total enemy casualties are heavy, and we've freed over 10,000 Vorthik across all 3 operations. But the most important discovery came from the intelligence gathered during the raids. The Alliance learned that the Krillian Empire controlled dozens of slave species across hundreds of worlds. The Vorthik were just one part of a vast system of oppression that spanned half the galaxy. Hunter stood beside Jake as they watched the last Krillian transport ships flee the system. "This is only beginning," Hunter said. "Now other slaves know freedom is possible. They will call for help, and we must answer." Jake nodded. "Then we answer. The Free Worlds Alliance doesn't stop here." 1 year later, Jake stood in the same spot, but everything had changed. The space around Freedom Station was filled with ships from a dozen different species, all former slaves of the Krillian Empire who had won their freedom with human and Vorthik help. Rachel Davis's daughter played in the station's gardens with young Vorthik who had been born free, their games a mixture of human imagination and Vorthik hunting instincts. The children spoke a new language that combined human words with Vorthik concepts, creating something that belonged to both species, and neither. Dr. Sam Rodriguez had established the Alliance Academy, where humans and Vorthik learned from each other. Human students studied Vorthik biotechnology and philosophy, while Vorthik scholars learned human engineering and literature. The exchange of knowledge was creating innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. Hunter approached Jake, now wearing the insignia of the Alliance's Joint Military Command. "New message from Sector 7, Hunter reported. 3 more species requesting assistance in breaking free from Krillian control. Jake smiled as he looked out at the mixed fleet, preparing for another liberation mission. "Then we go. The Hunters have become the Liberators, and we won't stop until every cage is broken." The alliance that began with humanity's darkest hour had become the galaxy's brightest hope for freedom.